Hi, Jeremy here, Modern Vitality. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the hidden cost of healing. The hidden cost of healing, what are we talking about? It's not just the money that you're paying for supplements or herbs or professional advice or a program or whatever it is, right? That's on the surface. That's a cost that we can factor and account for, which, things cost money, right? That's normal. We understand that there's a trade-off, especially if you're looking at quality, like high quality, that there's going to be a price for that for sure, financially. What I'm talking about now are the hidden costs of healing, meaning the other prices that you pay that aren't financial. Okay. And some of these might be what they call opportunity costs, which I'll explain in just a moment. And some of them are just emotional costs. So while there's definitely costs to staying sick, right? Meaning all the things we call it the shrinking world, right? All the things that you can't do because you're sick, right? You're missing out on. And I'm sure you have a list in your head of some of the things you wish you could be doing right now that you can't, right? Those are some of the costs of staying sick, but there are costs just like that of getting better. So this is going to be extremely counterintuitive, right? But it's important you understand this stuff because it'll expand your mind and it'll help you make bigger decisions and more long-term decisions. I'm going to tell you a story about one lady I met years ago who had fibromyalgia, and this came up and this became a substantial block for her to get better. So let's get started. What's really interesting is that science is now starting to validate just how important the circadian rhythm is for our health. And that matters for basically every human, but especially if you have a complex chronic health condition and your circadian rhythm is off, it's one of these things where if you can get that dialed back in, you've got a lot more leverage towards healing. Is that the first thing you should do? Maybe not necessarily, right? I tend to start with the immune system because that's the most acute crisis, right? If you're all familiar with my work, stage 1, immune, right? Stage 2, digestion, stage 3, neuroadrenal, stage 4, blood circulation. Usually in that stage 3, neuro, we're kind of looking at stress and sleep quality. And that's where we start to put more focus, more emphasis on circadian rhythm and starting to live with the sun and live with the night, right? And be able to kind of align ourselves that way as best we can. But it is still very important, right? Even if we don't start with that. And I remember this woman came in who was a lovely lady, excellent personality, very friendly, just a sweetheart of a woman. And she was suffering with fibromyalgia and all these other problems kind of stemming off of that, right? She had the wandering pains. She was exhausted all the time. She had brain fog, and she also was missing out on a lot of things. And she was one of these types of people who had like a real big heart, and she was a caretaker type. So she wanted to be able to take care of her family. Her kids were like teenagers, and she wanted to still be there for them kind of before they like left the nest. She wanted to be involved and active. And man, it was really rough for her because she was running out of mojo, which happens, right? And I remember when I was doing the intake on her, and this was years ago, and I found out that she worked the night shift, right, as a nurse. And this is a big problem for her circadian rhythm. And I know that a lot of times it's very interesting because a lot of times, you look online and there's somebody saying the circadian rhythm is really important, right? Which you've probably seen me say that too. The circadian rhythm is so important. You've got to sleep at night and all this. And then the reality is some people work third shift. Right? I used to work third shift. When I was in my early 20s, I was waiting tables at an all-night diner, right? Which was a blast, working from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or whatever it was. And all the people would come in. It was like a party every night, right? So I had a good time there. And I understand the appeal to third shift work, right? Because it's not only, sometimes it's a little bit interesting to be awake when everybody else is asleep. And there's like an alternate world that you're a part of, right? Which is kind of interesting. But the other thing, for me, back in the day in my diner, and also for this woman who I was talking to about her health at her intake, is that you're making more money, right? They would pay you more for working at night. And the reason why is because not many people want to do it, right? So they've incentivized that where you're making more money to work the night shift. And I remember it kind of came to a question for her because she said, I need to get better. I don't care what it costs. I'll pay anything to get better. Right? Very important. She was extremely motivated, right? And I floated a question by her and I said, listen, what if I told you that you didn't need treatment? What if I told you that you should just stop working third shift and realign your circadian rhythm, right? And she said, well, I can't do that because they pay me more for working third shift. So it's really quite interesting because now we have this opportunity cost, right? The opportunity cost is when you do one thing and now you missed out on something else, right? That's what an opportunity cost is. So for example, if you're thinking about, I've got an extra $10,000, should I invest it in stocks, right? And it's like, well, what's the opportunity cost? If you invest it in stocks, then you can't use it to buy gold or buy a car or put a down payment on a house or whatever. So you have to think about what else you could have done with that money or that whatever you're paying, like energy, right? So for her opportunity cost, I said, hey, what if you didn't do any treatments? What if you just changed your work? So instead of the money you're going to pay me for a program and treatments and all that kind of thing, right? And any other healthcare practitioner, like what if instead of that, you just take the pay cut and just live your life without a professional nearby? Like what if we just see what that's like? She said, no, I couldn't, I just can't, right? So she didn't want to make that trade. It's really interesting because in the same breath, I'll pay anything. I don't care what it costs. Well, what it's going to cost is a pay cut, right? What if you just stop taking the extra money and stop staying up all night and let your body realign? Because we found, and I'm not going to get into all this because I have 2 circadian rhythm videos, at least 2 on this channel you can look at in terms of going in depth on that. And it's not just Western science. We've got Eastern medicine too, looking at a circadian clock where every 2 hours a certain organ has its time. And if you're doing different types of activities, you'll get more leverage out of your body. You can heal better, right? Really quite interesting. This stuff's been mapped out for thousands of years. And now we also have modern research coming in to back it up when we're looking at how the brain works and how the digestive system even gets on a circadian rhythm. Like there's so much stuff to it. Right? So that's what I said. And she chose, not to do that and instead to do treatments, which is, it's totally her decision. And she actually did great. She did great despite working third shift. But the point is for this video is start asking yourself these kinds of questions, right? What would I pay? I'd pay anything to get better. Well, what would you pay? Would you pay in non-monetary payments, meaning having to change your lifestyle, right? So maybe you're not working third shift, right? Maybe it has nothing to do with your salary, but maybe there's something else you're getting out of the situation, right? Or something else you're doing. So for example, here's another one. And I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers here and I'm not going to take away your wine, I promise. But I have had patients in the past who said, well, I drink about 3 glasses of wine every night before bed. I said, well, maybe that's affecting your body and your ability to heal. Could you take a break from that? Could you take 2 weeks off from that? Well, I don't want to give it up. Okay. Well, that would be what we'd call a cost of healing, maybe, right? Are you willing to pay that price? Are you willing to have to find something else to do to blow off steam, right? Or, I have a lot of stress. I smoke a lot of cigarettes, or I chew tobacco to get some nicotine to stimulate me because I'm so fatigued. That's another one too. I should make a separate video about this. So many people I've worked with, they use nicotine in one form or another because they have chronic fatigue. So they're using a stimulant just to kind of rebalance, right? Or you're drinking a lot of caffeine, but nicotine's a really big one. I don't want to give it up, Well, there may be some side effects where you're actually kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You get a little short-term benefit, but long-term, these costs are adding up. I don't want to change it, right? Or here's another one. Mold. I got a moldy house, right? Well, can you remediate the house or probably better yet, move out of it? I don't want to move. Moving so much work, right? And I don't want to pay that price, right? That energetic price. Well, this would be the cost of getting better, right? It's not always a monetary cost. Sometimes it's an emotional cost or an energetic cost. And you want to start to look at these things because what happens is when you take a whole systems perspective and you really start to look at the things that are working against your healing, right? Most of them you chose, or at least you're choosing to keep. And a lot of people get freaked out by this, but part of my whole deal here is like self-empowerment. And I would be totally blowing smoke at you if I just tried to empower you and say, oh, it's about self-empowerment, but we didn't actually ask some hard questions, right? Because what if we come at things with the lens that you're choosing everything? Even if it's, I'm going to say something very difficult here, but even if it's a bad relationship, even if you have somebody in your life who is verbally abusive or physically abusive or whatever. And I know that there's different things where people stay in those situations for different reasons. And I know there's a lot of fear, right? But at the end of the day, every single person has some level of choice over what's going on with them. And it's not for anybody outside to judge, right? I'm not making a judgment. I'm not qualified for that. My job on this channel is to point out that you maybe have more power than you're giving yourself credit for, no matter what your situation is. And I may be wrong, but the nice thing is if we take that perspective, if we say, yeah, you know what, I do have more power than I'm giving myself credit for, where is it? We might actually find it, right? But if we never have that frame, if we never look, we may never find it. So there may be something that you're choosing to keep that's keeping you sick, right? No matter what it is. And you have to make that decision, right? But now it's become a decision. Now something that was subconsciously happening where we're creating our own reality, but it's behind our own curtain, right? I've opened the curtain up. And it's like, okay, I'd pay anything to feel better. Okay, well, would you pay the cost of moving out of this house that's moldy? Would you pay the cost of moving out of the city and into the country where you're not getting bombarded with EMFs so badly, right? Would you pay the cost of leaving this job that's trying to mandate some kind of medical treatment to you, right? Is that a price you're willing to pay or not? These prices are everywhere, everywhere. And sometimes it's not monetary. A lot of times it affects our sense of identity or our sense of self or our human needs or whatever it is, right? Would you pay, here's another one. Would you pay the price of not fitting in with your peers anymore? Would you pay the price of being the weirdo amongst your family or your friend group, right? What do I mean by weirdo? Well, if there's something about your local culture, right, that's making you sick. So for example, this happened, a lot of people went gluten-free. That's become more normalized now. But a while ago, it wasn't very normal. And somebody would say, oh, I think I'm reacting to gluten. And then they would tell their family, I don't think I can have gluten anymore. And you guys eat spaghetti every single night and bread. So I'm going to have to eat a different dinner. I feel weird about that, right? And it takes a little bit of courage in a way to actually go, you know what? I have to do something different than the tribe is doing. Okay? Would you pay the price of not fitting in if it meant feeling better? There are a lot of hidden costs to healing. So it's not just like, do you work the night shift or not? And it's not just like, okay, how much is this program? How much are these herbs? It's not always that stuff, right? Because that matters, sure, but that's logical, right? That's easy to get our head around. Like, yes, it makes sense for the budget, or no, it doesn't, or whatever, right? You can make your decisions. It's the emotional stuff that goes under the current, kind of behind the scenes. And you have to open that curtain up and you've got to look at these processes that are happening. It's really important. This will show you, and this is another thing too, where we confront ourselves, and it'll show you how much you say you value healing versus what you're willing to do in order to achieve it. For real, right? Actions speak louder than words. This is so interesting. So I hope this video helps you, right? I'm not trying to trigger you, If you want to be in a group of people who are like-minded and all on the same page in terms of understanding the cost of healing and what it really takes, you may want to apply for guest membership in the Modern Vitality Solutions and Support Group. You'll find the application link in the description box below this video. If your application looks really good, like you're going to be a fantastic fit for our community, and that what we do will make sense and help you, right? Then I'll let you in as soon as I can. And there may be a bit of a wait because we do fill up. I keep the group cozy, but it could be a couple weeks, could be a couple months. I'll get you in as soon as I can. In the meantime, consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video and doing other things to tell the algorithm that this kind of stuff is important to you, right? Because then you'll see more of it. And if you're dealing with a complex chronic health condition, then that's probably the most important thing you got going on right now is getting out from under that, right? Getting your life back. So I'm here for you. All right. I hope this video helps you. Let's get you feeling better. Cheers.